Well, hello everybody and welcome to our movie review for Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man. Of course, Stephen, the latest foray into this dark universe. I think it's Universal collaborating with Blumhouse. I believe it's part of this dark universe. I still haven't checked that, but I don't care about that. I care about this movie as a single entity. I don't really care about expanded universes. That Mummy movie was shit. This was significantly better than that, Stephen.
Yes.
What was your thoughts getting into this movie? Because I have to say, I didn't hold high expectations for it.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that Lee Whannell was the guy involved in this movie. I didn't actually know much about it at all, in truth. But he did the likes of Upgrade. He's worked in the Insidious franchise. So he's a man who's well versed in horror movies. You actually watched the trailer prior to seeing this movie. I didn't. So I went in completely cold. I was aware it was about an invisible man. What was your thoughts before we actually get into the meat and bones of this movie? Because it surprised me a great deal.
I didn't know too much about it, John, I'll be honest with you. A month ago I didn't even know this film was in production. It just seemed to go under the radar with me for some reason. I don't know why.
Same with me.
I think it was another movie reviewer had said they'd seen the film. I think this was maybe 10 days ago or something like that, 2 weeks ago, over in the US, and they thoroughly enjoyed it, which intrigued me to then go and check the trailer out. One of the things I liked about the trailer was the angle they were coming from, and the point of view they were coming from. It was different from any Invisible Man films I've seen before, whether that be The Hollow Man, The Invisible Man.
The fourth from the 30s.
Yeah, the memoirs of the Invisible Man, It was just the different sort of take, and that's what intrigued me, and I just felt that the cast as well, very, very good cast. But I'm sure we'll get into this as we go on, John. But it was one of these films, as I said, a month ago I wasn't even aware of the film, and it's just it surprised me how good the film was. Yeah,
Stephen, look, it really did surprise me, which we will get into in more detail as we crack through this review. But look, all things must have a beginning, and the beginning of this movie was simply stunning. The way that Lee managed to craft the tension, the tone, just set everything in place, the characters. I mean, the Adrian character, the antagonist in this movie, he's sleeping for nearly the entirety of the intro. Of course, he wakes up and nearly nearly kills her, puts his hand, smashes the window.
Yeah.
But the way he was able to establish this man as an out-and-out antagonist whilst he lay and slept in the bed, I thought that was astonishing. Just that first shot as well, that sort of shot from the sea, looking up at the mansion, condo, whatever it was. It's like an eagle's nest.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just visual metaphor for this woman, obviously Cecilia, the main female character in this. Her plight, she's sort of contained by this controlling, manipulative freak of a man, isolated up in the hills. I thought that was stunning. I really, really enjoyed the opening 10 minutes of this movie. I enjoyed the whole movie, but the opening 10 minutes, I firmly believe a good movie should set the tone and just the story within the opening couple of minutes, and I thought he did a fantastic job of that. Just the dog, tiptoeing around, and just set up the two characters wonderfully, the plight of each.
That first 10 minutes, John, there was no dialogue. In fact, it was maybe a brief bit of dialogue between
sister
Elizabeth Moss, character, and the dog.
Yeah, the dog as well,
just getting back a little bit, waking up in that bed, I don't know, 3 in the morning or whatever it was, it said the alarm clock.
3:30.
And
something like that.
Just the way she sort of slid out of the bed, his arms round her, that's another sign, that he's even controlling her while they sleep. It wasn't just a cuddle.
No.
But just all the things she had to do. She had to turn the camera around to face him, switch the other ones off. Just that creeping about, having her bag prepared. It was buried in a wardrobe or something like that, in a little, I don't know, like a compartment or something.
Yeah, she was very meticulous in the planning of this escape.
Yeah, she's planned it for a while. And then obviously the dog, I think, backs into the car.
Poor dog.
And sets off the alarm bells. But
even the dog had an electrocuting collar on, so he was controlling the dog as well. Exactly. Just a control freak, this guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it just kind of, as you said, John, it did set up the tone of the film as well, but it also gave you a clear indication of what she was going through at this point as well. Desperate to get away. And you're right, obviously, when she meets the sister, I didn't realise it was her sister at first. No. I just thought it was someone driving by and she was just catching a ride, hitching. But we discover obviously that was set up as well. For her to meet her out in that road. But I mean, he wakes up, obviously the hands go through the window to try and grab her, and and they put the foot down, and drive away.
And she drops her antidepressants medication.
That was another sign, John, to really indicate to us that she's on medication, and it sort of plants a seed in there that perhaps without this medication she might struggle with reality to a point, etc. That she needs these, so I think that was deliberate, obviously. Well, it was deliberate because they emphasised that, it was on the road, he picked them up. How the hell he spotted them in the middle of the night, dark? But he did. But it was a great setup, and it moves very quickly after that into her living conditions and how living with him's traumatised her, that she can't even go out to pick up the mail from just outside. It was fantastic, John.
Just the dimming of the sound.
And the jogger going by startled her. It showed Elizabeth Moss has to be commended for her performance in this film. I know we'll get into that, John, further down the line, but those early indications, I thought the actor nailed the situation, nailed the sort of condition that this character was in mentally, and we kind of get to know the people around her as well, the people that are in her life that care for her as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. Look, I really, really did enjoy the first 15, 20 minutes, as I did say, particularly in this movie, just because I am fond of that sort of right in at the deep end, setting up everything. And this movie was frenetic. There was no real time to sit down and relax. There was a couple of moments where she's having conversation with, obviously, people that are keeping her. I don't know what their relations are even now. Obviously, the guy and his daughter. Yeah, there was a couple of quiet moments, but for the most part, very frenetically paced, and that really did set up wonderfully the entire movie. That first sort of scene, the escape. I really did feel sorry for the dog as well. How he get left behind. We'll get into that shortly, though. I'm still baffled how that dog was able to stay in that. Well, we know why he was able to stay in the house now, because he was obviously still there. He was using that as a base to go back and forth and terrorise her later on in the movie. But this guy's meant to be dead. This house is supposed to be abandoned. This goddamn dog doesn't look as though it's went even a couple of hours without eating.
Yeah, Cecilia just didn't care.
Yeah, she didn't care. Yeah, she just left. Well, she tried to get him, to be fair, but he done a runner, the dog. But you're right, even that scene afterwards when she goes out, I love that. We've seen that in the likes of Hush and A Quiet Place, the dimming of the senses and the sound and whatnot. Obviously, in A Quiet Place, the little girl's deaf, and Hush, the main character, is deaf as well. But just highlighting her anxiety, all the senses are all being dimmed. She's kind of a fish out of water when she goes out the house. I really enjoyed that. I love them utilising that. And once again, as you did say about the antidepressants, highlighted she's a slightly untrustworthy, unreliable narrator. This being filmed from her perspective, you don't know whether to trust her. Is she hallucinating? Is it all in her head? Well, it turns out it isn't, obviously, as the movie goes on. But look, we start seeing some subtle and not so subtle oddities, I've says, occur around about her. Also, she finds out he's killed himself. Adrian, obviously her partner, she doesn't really believe it, but she goes along with it anyway. She meets his brother, gets some sort of trust fund. She's starting to get back into her life again, regain confidence, and then some oddities start happening. I really enjoyed the subtleness in which that was handled. Just little things like the breathing behind her when she's taking the dress out. The actual breath of air in the night when she's out and it's very cold. I actually laughed at that, incidentally. I thought that was pretty cool. And then obviously the fire, that she's cooking the breakfast stuff and it goes up in flames. That lingering wide shot of the kitchen with no one there and it turning up, so menacing. And I actually spoke about this before we came on as well, Stephen, that opening intro where the camera pans to the actual corridor. You're expecting him to come up from his bed, nothing happens, but it's establishing early on, every little camera move, you have to be on your edge because something could be happening. And also with a movie of this ilk, being an invisible antagonist, you're always on your edge anyway. That's a large part of it. But really enjoyed those little oddities that were popping up.
I think the director set it up nicely for the audience, to experience exactly what Cecilia was experiencing as well. It was a nice little trick, John. And you're right, that panning shot in the house at the very beginning was the start of it. And it was an obvious shot. When we were watching that in the cinema, I was like, that's deliberate, nothing's happened here. I wasn't really expecting him to appear when the camera panned round to the left.
Oh, it was.
Well, think about it from a filmmaking point
Yeah.
of view. It's not really a jump scare if you're actually turning the camera around to see the guy.
That's true.
Normally he would come in from the left or whatever. All of a sudden, it wouldn't be like a camera pan showing you him coming. So yeah, you're right. And from then on, I think this was a neat little trick from the director to condition your mind into thinking anything goes now. And keep your eyes out, because I was like that for the whole time. Every scene I was looking around the corners, looking around on the floor, looking on tables and stuff like that.
I was looking around in my room after watching it.
Yeah. We're all looking for an invisible chap, but which is a strange thing, but can't see anything if it's invisible.
Yes.
But yeah, it was nice. I thought it was just a nice little trick to get the audience sort of up to speed and on the same page as obviously the character.
Absolutely, Stephen, and obviously he's playing into that sort of dark fear that every human being has of perhaps something being in a room in the corner, and in your mind you always, sometimes if you're in a strange place or whatever, you'll maybe pan. You feel as though you're being watched or something. It's a sort of dark, innate sort of fear.
That was the other thing I picked up as well, John, was they do this thing in films a lot, horror films, where there's a presence in the room and the normal person that is, doesn't detect that person in the room. That's not real to me. You always feel a presence in your room, even if you can't see who it is. This film nailed that. She sensed something wasn't right.
Absolutely.
And I think it was the first shot, I think, when she turned round. And
she had the dress.
That's right. She was just hanging them up, and she turned back round and she could sense it, and that's when I realised that's real. I don't mean the visible part, but having a presence in the room, you always sense it. And some films fall foul to that, where the sort of good character in the scene doesn't sense someone in the closet or whatever.
Then they go for the jump scare.
And it becomes a bit dull.
Absolutely right, Stephen. And look, as I did say, so many odd moments happening. Perhaps the oddest in terms of actual story, and then outside of the story itself, the actual making of this in the movie. Because I was reading, what's her name again? Elizabeth Moss. She was speaking about the actual creation of this scene, how ridiculous it was and how hard it was to actually act it out. The moment where they're sleeping and he pulls the quilt or the covers off of them, and then she goes to grab it and he stands on it and you see the imprint of the foot. She actually says it was a couple of fake feet green screened, I think, with sticks.
Okay.
And she's having to act to that and give a sort of realistic, fearful performance. So again, that just speaks volumes, as you did say, about Elizabeth Moss's acting in this movie. I thought she was simply incredible. But in an actual story, from a story point, the moment she throws the covers over the seat as well, that whole scene, it's just creepy as hell, man. And just the shots of the footsteps, again, that establishes this is actually happening. If she isn't out of her napper on antidepressants and an unreliable narrator, this guy is actually here. He is alive. He's faked his own death, and he's a master at optics and whatnot. He's created this technology. So I really liked that. That sort of set the tone for her being terrorised, going through the sort of middle act. That's the word I'm looking for. Brain went completely dead there momentarily. Middle act of the movie, and that's something that we see going through this movie. His sort of cunning manipulation. We see he's a master manipulator anyway, the way he has her terrorised and freaked out. But even in invisibility, utilising this technology, he is manipulating everyone round about her, trying to isolate her, punching a little girl and whatnot, and just doing a whole host of things to get everyone to turn against her so he can have her on his own and have his merry little way with her. What was your thoughts on that night scene in the bedroom, the footsteps? Did it freak you? Well, and what was your thoughts on him manipulating? Because he really is an incredible antagonist.
That's the beginning of the manipulation, John. The bed scene. Yeah, you're right. You've got to expect this from an Invisible Man film anyway, that there's going to be some sort of creepy moments. And I thought just the way that he began to isolate her as well. Turning all the people that are closest to her away. The striking of the girl was such a low blow, but it was done in a way so it was so quick, that and she was very much in close proximity to the young girl as well, so you can understand I can't remember her name, the character's name, but
I'll find it. I'm on IMDb just now.
You can understand why she was convinced that Cecilia Sydney. So you can understand why Sydney thought it was Cecilia that struck her. It just felt a little bit out of place, but you've got to remember at this point as well the emotional trauma that she's gone through, and the people closest around her can see her sort of unfolding in front of them, even without his manipulation. Adrian's manipulation. You can see that she's not quite recovered from her living experience with this chap, and it's going to be a long road for her. And the people looking after her understand that, but it looks like her whole emotions are unfolding, and they can see it happening in front of them as well. So they're a little bit wary of her and her actions. They know that she's obviously on special medication to control her emotions, etc., her anxieties and stuff like that. So it would be very easy for Adrian to go in there and do what he did. It wasn't something that I didn't think was unbelievable or jarring or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was slight things like that. I'm saying slight things. They belted that young girl in the face, but it's little things like that start to break their relationships down, because this is what he did when they were together. He isolated her in her life, and she says this, Elizabeth Moss's character says this at some point, that he even told me how to think and what to eat, etc. So how the levels he went to manipulate and control her when they were in a relationship. So it was no holds barred by this point for this character, Adrian. He was really going to, hit her where it hurts. And he certainly did with the breakdown of all the relationships. The
funniest thing though, Stephen, about that is I actually never feared for the Cecilia character at any point, because he's so infatuated in that twisted dark way. Yeah. That she herself was never in danger. It was actually these side characters, likes of James and, as you did say, Sydney.
Yeah.
I actually thought that James character handled that pretty well. His daughter being hit.
Yeah.
He was slightly understanding, but he wanted to get her into safety.
Yeah.
But again, again, the way that was weaved by the director, just the fact that he established this new life, this new sort of family surrounding. She's building a trust fund for this young girl, getting her to her dream place in this university or college, as they call them over in the States. All's merry and nice, and she's getting back on her feet, and then he slowly comes in and takes it apart piece by piece. And the calculation in his moves as well, where he sends the email to her sister saying she wishes she was dead or something like that. It's all getting moved around so that when he performs a particularly gruesome thing, that it all looks as though she has planned this and that she's losing her mind and wants to kill everyone and whatnot. I was talking about that particularly strange moment, or that shocking moment, for lack of a better word, when they're actually sitting at dinner, obviously Cecilia and her sister. Probably the most shocking moment in the entire movie for me. I wasn't expecting it. Well, I was engrossed, as you did say, Stephen, in the conversation.
The conversation was intriguing,
so
John,
quickly.
And it was engaging, and I was just caught up in that. I didn't see what was coming next, and obviously Cecilia's sister didn't see what's coming next either with the floating knife. But you're right, John. It took me by surprise, because I felt the sisters would go into the third act and tackle this guy, and take him on and obviously succeed. But she didn't even make it through the second act, and it was such a shocking thing that happened as well. You expect something like that to perhaps maybe happen in a less public place as well, right in the middle of a restaurant. And that woman's reaction, it's a classic film reaction, isn't it? The scream. But
I think that's how I'd react as well, Stephen.
But it was the fact that the knife went from floating right into Cecilia's hand so quick as well. And her fingerprints are all over it. She's banged to rights, And she sent
an email to her sister just a couple of days earlier saying that she wished that she was dead, and that was all through Adrian, his master puppetry, sort of puppet master work. Again, I actually forgot about the sequence prior to that, where the fighting in the actual house and the actual attic stuff going on. This whole chunk I've missed out there.
No, it's okay, John.
Incredible, that moment with the paint being flung and she's put the dust around and the phone vibrating. I actually thought he was above her. And then she goes to his mansion and hides his suit, she finds a second suit, and that proves to be absolutely vital for the end of the movie. Missed out an entire sequence here, Stephen. But it was fantastic.
Some of that was in the trailer, John.
Yeah.
So you can excuse that, and you've got to remember as well that when we get into series films to do these reviews, we don't take notebooks in or anything like that. So it's all from mind, and obviously from your structure that you set up for these shows. But I mean that scene as well was, as I said, most of it was in the trailer anyway, and a few disgruntled people thought that was quite a key scene as well. I thought actually it was strange because I remember seeing that scene after the recommendation to see the trailer, and part of it was in it, and it looked almost like golf ball like dense, in the visions, in the visuals, I should say, and it did look weird, but I didn't really pick up on it. Obviously, the suit plays a key factor in this. The explanation as well, John. It didn't really get into too much detail of the technology. I
still don't understand how it works.
It was all to do with optical illusions or something like that. I would take, with different sort of angles and stuff like that. You can't see. I take it very much like it's like a stealth suit, and it kind of just blends into the environment. But I thought the attic scene was I thought the attic scene was very key in regards to seeing the stature of this Invisible Man as well with the paint. We didn't get to it happened so quickly as well, but it kind of gave us the sort of indication. It was the first time we saw him as well, so it was a key scene. Yeah,
and Stephen, it was just handled perfectly in terms of scares and whatnot. It was a really intelligent horror movie. I now understand what perhaps the guy from Blumhouse is saying, where this guy has the ability to really shake up the genre and do something zany, because he's done it with this. I like the way he handled the scares. It's quite hard to go in to the horror genre and do something different, do something out there. We've seen it with obviously John Krasinski in A Quiet Place, Hush, what he did with that. I can't recall the actors. I think it was John Gallagher Jr. or something.
Bird Box as well, John.
Bird Box as well. Just doing something different with the genre. It's quite hard to do. It's a very well established genre with techniques, cheap parlour tricks, I like to call it. He certainly does do some jump scares in this, but for the most part it's very psychological, and it's more intelligent in the way it's utilised.
They're the best horror films.
Yeah, they definitely are, Steve. My all-time favourite one is Shining, and obviously that's the master Kubrick psychological horror, the gold standard. But obviously I did actually mention in the notes, I just passed over it, about going back to the mansion. Obviously the dog's there and whatnot. He allows her to escape. She meets her sister meets a gruesome end. Horrific, just that slow shot as well of her lying on the floor and she's looking up and her sister's blood's dripping down the table. It was horrific.
It was horrendous, John.
And it almost blends in. You're thinking prior to that, is she losing the plot? And then that almost sends her over the edge, and she almost does lose the plot. She gets taken to that psychiatric hospital, put into that padded cell and whatnot. She's screaming that he's in my room, I can see him. And then that plays into what I was going to touch upon next. I actually spent a large proportion of this movie looking out for the Invisible Man to see if I could make out an outline or something. Maybe people have went and seen this movie multiple times. Maybe they can point out perhaps a scene where there is a slight outline. But I was trying to find it. I couldn't see him. Sadly, he's invisible. It makes sense. Obviously without the paint sequence and whatnot. And when she stabs him later on. But I don't know where to really go next after that. I would perhaps suggest the suit technology. Speak about that. You kind of touched upon it briefly. I didn't really think of it being a sort of optical illusion. Well, obviously it's optical illusion, but almost like camouflage. When I was watching it, it put me in mind of perhaps Mysterio from Spider-Man, obviously Far From Home, where he's utilising, cameras and drones and stuff to warp reality around him. Obviously that's not what's happening here, but it was really cool the way they utilised the technology and the visual aspect of the suit, even if I still don't know what the hell's going on with it.
If a filmmaker can give you a semi-explanation on technology in their films, then it's acceptable. You don't really think too hard about it, because if you really want to think really hard about films like this, then there's other things, Adrian's travel plans, how did they get to places so quickly as well? And you start to think, you start to break it down. You start to break it down, if you overthink it. So I think the technology explanation was enough, without getting into really pointless details that are just going to bore you to death and how the suit works. It didn't really matter. All it mattered was what it did.
He was a master at optics, and he created a fantastic suit, which I'm sure a lot of nefarious people out there would love to get their hands on. But look, Stephen, speaking about Elizabeth Moss, I've says in the next point, stellar acting. She's acting to doorways and nothingness for large chunks of this movie, fighting invisible entities. She expresses almost the whole human lexicon of emotions. There's so much going on in her face. She's breaking down. She's grief-struck. It's just incredible performance from the face, from physical performing. How the hell they did that actual fight in the kitchen to nothing is beyond me. Obviously, there was a green screened person or something who was removed in post. But I just thought she was absolutely incredible. One of the better performances I've seen in the last few months.
I mean, the film's based around her, John, and it's probably a stupid thing to say, but you know, obviously she's carrying the film, and she did carry the film. You know, if her performance isn't convincing, the whole film's doomed. But you're absolutely right. The emotional trauma and the physical trauma, I don't know if it was down to the makeup, you know, department or whatever. She looked run down. You know, the bags under the eyes. You know, just a performance as well. You know, it was so convincing that this poor person's psyche was just torn to shreds. Just her emotions all over the place. Her performance made you obviously sympathise with her, but obviously the performance was that convincing that you started to doubt whether or not what she was experiencing was reality or not. And I think the director took us all on a journey in this film, John. You know, emotionally, obviously, you know, whatever she was experiencing, we were experiencing, and that's the traits of a very good director.
Absolutely, Stephen. Look, she was the absolute standout performer, and as you did say, a lot of the movie was on her shoulders, being the sort of sole, tangible person on the screen for nearly the whole movie. There was a couple of other ones. Obviously, Oliver Jackson-Cohen plays Adrian. He's at the beginning, he's at the end. He's a smarmy shit at the end. He thinks he's got it all worked out. He's a sort of mastermind criminal, if you like. Don't have enough to really judge him on in terms of acting performance. The only other ones I could really say would perhaps be Storm Reid and Aldous Hodge, obviously as Sidney Lanier and James Lanier. Thought they were pretty good. Also the brother as well, Michael Dorman, he was a sleazy little shit. We've not really spoke about him much. I mean, there was a reveal, a sort of double bluff reveal. I was never once buying this little guy's sort of ignorance at what his brother was getting up to. I thought from day one he was involved. He knew about the plan.
Was 2 meetings before the finale, John. The first one was obviously the meeting setting up how they were dealing with the estate. The second one was her going back to say that he's still alive, and then him kind of siding with her. I know what you're going through. It was the same with me. Blah blah blah. And John, and it's nothing to do with the writing or the directing or the acting here. It's just seemed a bit fake, you know, just a bit false on the character's part. So when it came to obviously the double bluff at the end with Tom's twist, that was probably the part of the film I think was a little bit sketchy. You know, I've seen numerous videos since this film was released, explanation of the ending of The Invisible Man. So that kind of says a lot. I think, you know, I understood it. I know that you understood it as well because we talked about it, but a lot of people might get confused with the way the twist went, you know.
There is some ambiguity because when she walks away at the end, we're jumping ahead a bit here, but it doesn't matter.
We're not talking about what happened.
There's no real structure. It doesn't even matter, Stephen. Let's be honest. I missed a huge chunk out of the movie anyway earlier on. But there was actually a moment when it pans on her at the very end of the movie, and I thought, she might actually be the villain in this movie. She's walking away, very smug. Has she done a number on the audience and on everyone? Is it actually her who's the villain in this movie? I don't know, man. But I never bought Tom's innocence and his ignorance in what was going on, because he was a little shithead, and I knew that from the very get-go. And it was confirmed really in the pregnancy diagnosis scene when Cecilia is diagnosed as being pregnant. I don't know if that's the correct word. She's told she's pregnant. I'm saying diagnosis as if it's a disease, which it isn't. And I pondered the question, obviously then, that Adrian or someone has raped her because she was taking, I don't know, anti-fertility drugs, what would you call it? She was taking drugs to stop her getting pregnant when she was with him. It's happened in the course of the last month, film time, so it's obviously happened after she's ran away and left. And that begs the question, how and when has it happened? Has he did it in the padded cell?
This is what I was getting at with the third act. there was a lot of sketchy moments,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, the film, the storyline in the film at this point kind of, I'm not saying fell flat, but it just wasn't up to the same sort of standard as the first two acts for me. Not to say that it was a letdown or anything like that. It wasn't. It was just some little niggly things, and that was one of them as well. It wasn't really explained well enough for me anyway, how that would have came about, you know, because it was obviously explained earlier on in the film, Cecilia's desperation and determination that she wasn't going to fall pregnant to Adrian because she would never get him out of his life then. So where this came from,
I have no explanation either.
One.
Yeah, because it couldn't have happened in the cell unless she was in there for an inordinate length of time and it just flew by quicker and fell at actual real times watching the movie. It wasn't explained very well, but obviously that acts as a real turning point for the Cecilia character, because she then has him bent over, really. She can do whatever she wants. She knows now, I knew from the get-go that she was never in danger, but the actual character probably thought she was in danger. He was going to try and kill her.
Yeah.
But once she's pregnant and she knows how much he wants a baby with her, she realises she now has him. He will not harm her in any way. And that really brings us into that final act when all hell breaks loose and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, Stephen, as well, in what he says about the explanations and whatnot, and it falling a little bit below the standard of the first two acts. I think the moment the cloak was dropped on the actual suit technology, it seemed to lose something for me. It lost an edge.
That happens in most horror films, John.
There's just something about the invisibility, the paranormal aspect, the psychological, when you can't see them.
Jeepers Creepers,
but when it's explained...
Do you remember Jeepers Creepers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. First 15 minutes was some of the most terrifying stuff you'll see in a horror film. Then the reveal, it's not scary once they reveal it, you know. Yeah,
when you reveal the suit technology, it humanises this antagonist who was just... He was almost godly in the middle and the beginning of the movie. He could do what he wanted. And I've almost preferred the Hollow Man technology with Kevin Bacon, because he actually was completely invisible. There was no real tangible way to touch him. This guy's in a suit, morphing and warping, camouflaging himself. I don't know what you'd call it. But that end sequence, Stephen, the actual everything going on, that corridor sequence, I really did enjoy that. When she breaks out and she thinks she stabs him with the pen numerous times or something. Just the way he's taking down all of those guards one by one. I've said in my notes, it's almost like a combination of Predator meeting Robert Patrick's Terminator in Terminator 2. He's completely relentless. He's absolutely unstoppable. He's breaking arms and shooting them all over the place. Really nice little sequence. Really well shot as well in a claustrophobic setting.
You know, as much as controlling as he was, you know, prior to the putting the suit on, how much control do you have once you've got the suit on? Total control.
Absolutely.
100%. You know, and this sequence was fantastic, and it did remind me of the sort of scenes when Robert Patrick's Terminator is going after Sarah Connor in the institution. Those corridor scenes, you know.
Yeah.
But visually this was fantastic as well, John. Just the way they set it up. Yeah, we know it's green screen suits, you know, that are going on, and you know, and making all this stuff possible, but. You know, just suspend the reality of it, you know, and it's such an enjoyable sequence.
The gun turning round in mid-air.
Yeah, and I thought he was actually letting that guy go, you know, and then he just kind of shot him from the back as well, you know. It was just a fantastic sequence.
Absolutely, Stephen. That brings me on to the next point. Before we start talking about story and wrapping it up, Adrian, I've said here he's a grade A CUNT, and he is, let's be honest, he really is.
Yeah.
But I've also then went on to say he's an utterly magnificent antagonist. A rare example of a black-white, out-and-out villainous antagonist, just working. He's evil, out and out.
Yeah.
Although, I say that, I was about to say prior to that, he could have really unleashed a lot more hell than he actually does in this movie. He's quite restrained. He's
restrained his love for Cecilia.
Yeah, he reserves himself to really terrorising Cecilia in the movie when he could have killed a whole lot more people. It's not really till he's pushed and stabbed and the technology starts flickering that he starts taking it out on other people. But he's an out and out antagonist. He's not like a Thanos where you can get on board with his side of things. It might be slightly warped, but you can get on board with it. He's just an absolute evil shit. He's a master manipulator. He's abusing her. Just evil incarnate, but absolutely loved the character. I thought he was a magnificent villain. I really enjoyed it. Something about this type of genre, this type of movie, it just lends itself to those black and white antagonist. It's like going back 10, 15 years and watching a movie from back in the day, like a Hollow Man or whatnot.
Yeah.
Loved it. Much like I loved The Green Room as well with Patrick Stewart. He was an out and out villainous Nazi sort of apologist running this skinhead group. I love those type of movies every bit as much as I love a good, well fleshed out antagonist. What was your thoughts on Adrian as a villain? I mean, it was just incredible.
I did send you a text what I thought of him, but I don't think you can repeat that. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to have evil for evil's sake, John, and you don't need too much explanation on how they became the way they became. You know, not interested in that in this type of film anyway. I think that adds the mystery to the character as well, because you're right. You know, as a performer, I can't remember the actor's name, but
it's a double-barreled name.
Yeah, but one of the things,
Oliver Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really have to act a lot in this film, in the middle part anyway. No. It certainly, we only got a glimpse of him at the start. It was really the sort of set up for the finale that we got to see this guy, you know. And I thought it was a excellent villain, you know. Angered me because there is people like this in real life. You know, it's not a made up sort of characteristic. There's a lot of nasty, evil people out there that like to control weaker people.
Yeah.
You know, and he certainly was that. You know, so. But we knew what he was like. We spoke about it at the start of this review. But, you know, just the setup, the first 10 minutes, we knew what this guy was all about. You know, and it just get worse, you know, as the film got on.
Absolutely, but Stephen, you can't fault him. They put on a magnificent spread at the end for her. Steak. He had covered just about every kind of food that was going, so he wasn't all bad. He gave her a nice steak, and then also he gets his just desserts. I think we'll go on to that ending.
Nice pun, John.
Yeah, just desserts, yes. Cause, I don't know what course we were on at that point, but as I did say, she planked a secondary suit in the house and then escaped. She comes back. Tom, incidentally, we've spoke about the double buff, but obviously his brother Tom gets killed. He's the guy that's actually getting back to the house and terrorising the young girl.
The only part, John, about that was when exactly did the switcheroo happen? Yeah. Was it just after the, you know, in the hospital? Was it just after that? That's when I kind of felt that must have been when they did the switch, because the scenes in the house with the father and daughter fighting in the corridor, I thought the father was a goner. I thought he'd actually choked him to death. But just, you know, obviously talking about that, the actual switcheroo, I don't know when that would have happened.
He was probably in a car.
It must have been, it must have just been after the hospital scenes. It must have been.
Adrian must have been in the car. He comes out the hospital, switches the suits. Tom goes off to the house to terrorise the young girl and the father, and he goes away and goes to his actual house, obviously.
Bricks himself up.
up. So again, inconsistencies, and it loses a little at the end. There's some things need explained, It's all a little strange. But look,
maybe the dog did it for him.
Yeah, maybe that dog hated him. Not a chance in God's green earth. But also, Tom gets done in. They try to pile it all on him. He's the man to blame. Poor old Adrian's been bricked up in the house. That then brings us on to the end. She goes in with obviously the father figure, and they go, and she's mic'd up and she's trying to get a confession out of him. He's not having it, he's not admitting it. We both spoke about this. There was a slight level of ambiguity in this as well. Was he really not involved? Was he really bricked up? And it's all a figment of her imagination, or it was all Tom from the get-go. But I think it's established throughout the movie, him saying surprise, and then he then comes down and whispers in her ear. It's not really a surprise, is it? And then it's clearly the same voice. That confirms it is him.
Yeah.
She goes away to the toilet, comes back with a suit, invisible, slits his throat. Just desserts. Absolutely amazing bit of vengeance unleashed upon this shithead for what he did to her sister. She goes away, slips back in, and then it's just again, it's almost the roles reversed. She's playing it like a master puppeteer. She's screaming, she phones the police, moves out of shot of the camera. She's very cool and collected. I really enjoyed the ending. I really did.
Fantastic,
Yes, but also the actual ending. What did you think about her walking away, Stephen? Do you think she was somehow a slightly secondary antagonist and she's going to move it? Because obviously this is setting up the Invisible Woman. They're saying so she will be the Invisible Woman.
Yeah,
and an Invisible Woman is not going to be doing it for good.
No, but
it's not going to be a good Invisible Woman.
I think the trauma she went through would have affected her mind anyway, John.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, the vengeance part as well sets it up nicely, but whether or not she was playing along from the very beginning, I'm not so sure, because why they would have to have those sequences in the kitchen, the fighting and stuff like that. You know, the bit she was getting freaked out in the loft.
Oh, I don't doubt she was terrified of him and they hated each other, but perhaps she was not so innocent as she portrayed.
Well, I think it would take something away from the performance then, you know, of Elizabeth Moss if she was, you know, playing us all along from the beginning, you know, taking away the emotional trauma. You know, if it wasn't 100% genuine, then I think that would be taken away from her performance. I don't think so. I think what's happened is that this, you know, the events in this film have moulded her into what she's going to become. I didn't know they were setting up an Invisible Woman film.
I think they are, yeah, so absolutely.
I didn't know there was an Invisible Man film coming out a month ago, and I didn't know they were setting up one. What do I know? What am I doing here?
Well, the ones in the 30s, I think the very first one was the Invisible Man, then there was a Return of the Invisible Man, then there was an Invisible Woman.
Strikes Back.
Then there was The Invisible Man Strikes Back. So there was 4 in the 1930s and 40s, so I think they're going down that route. It's a surprise success. Critically, probably
Invisible
commercially.
Man Awakens.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, the fact that this movie, though, Stephen, has an $8 million budget or something, it's Blumhouse level, ridiculous budget.
We talked about this on Monday, John.
They're going to make mega bucks here. It's going to be a huge profit. They are going to greenlight another movie. She will come back. Elizabeth Moss was outstanding. I have no doubt she will come back and just get her teeth into perhaps an antagonistic role and see how she does with that. But look, we'll speak about The Invisible Woman when it comes out, I'm sure. If we're not all dead by coronavirus, we won't. We'll be here. Don't worry about it. We're not panicking over here in Britain. Keep calm and carry on. That came from here. But look, visual effects and cinematography, Stephen, and the story. Overall thoughts on the story. I thought the cinematography was fantastic in this movie. We spoke about it earlier. The way the cameras panned round, it almost made the audience the villain in some parts, because she's in the rooms on her own, she's turning round and she's looking at us peering through doorways and stuff like that. I thought that was a really nice way to subvert expectations and just perspectives in this movie, make the audience get into the skin of this Adrian character and you're stalking on her. That was really cool, really nice to do. And then also the corridor sequence, that was just magnificently shot. The CGI as well was fantastic for me, really well done.
Just touching on that, John, the actual way it was shot, you're right, you know, it's open to interpretation though, I think, because I never looked at it like that. I didn't interpret it that we were made to look like the villain in the film. I actually took it the other way, that we were experiencing what she was experiencing, you know, we were seeing it from her point of view. But you're right, now you've said that, I can understand why. Maybe
not the villain, but just putting us into the skin of this guy, it's very uncomfortable. You don't want to be in his skin, but it was a nice way again to subvert it. He's doing different things with the horror genre. Really liked it. The story though, I mean, we kind of had touched upon the story. Pretty linear story. It was some neat things going on in there, obviously just following the trauma of this woman, very disturbed. I wrote my notes, it's almost like Sleeping with the Enemy meets Hollow Man. That Julia Roberts one with the bearded, was it Tom Selleck? I don't know if it was some guy with a beard. I don't think it was Tom Selleck. Just comes out in my mind all the time.
It might have been Andy Garcia, I'm not sure, I'd have to check. I can't remember.
But that was
I've not seen that film in such a long time, John.
Yeah, it was fantastic though, Stephen, wasn't it? The way he turned the cans around and whatnot. He was a control freak. Vibes of that. I think there was one with Jennifer Lopez as well, which was similar. She was abused by a control freak. It took elements of that and mixed it with the horror-centric elements of maybe a Hollow Man and obviously the original Invisible Man movies. Really nice to do that, and again it shows you the intelligence of this man, that he's shaking it up, he's writing and doing something distinctly different with the story and the genre. I really enjoyed the story. I liked the linearness of it. I liked most of it. Well, first 2 acts at least anyway. The third act was okay, kind of a dipped a little bit, but overall I really enjoyed it.
Patrick Bergin or Kevin Anderson, it was one of those two, I think. Wasn't it Andy Garcia? I don't know where I got that from.
I was trying to drag that out as long as possible while you searched furiously for that name, Stephen. I knew you were doing it. What was your thoughts on the whole sleep? Do you think it was like Sleeping with the Enemy mixed with Hollow Man before we round up?
I mean, obviously the Hollow Man's the most obvious one, isn't it? Just with the invisible elements to it. But you're right, you know, different elements of other films as well, you know, having that sort of stalkery sort of point of view as well, you know, from the Glenn Close one, Michael Douglas, I can't remember what it's called, the Bunny Boiler, you know, that just that sort of obsession someone has over someone, and you're right, you touched on this earlier in the review, John, you know, you never really feared for Cecilia's life. after a while, you know, you realise this guy needs her, you know, as much as you know, he's an out and out, you know, villain in this film. He has got his reasons. They're very black and white to us, but not to him. You know, he's obviously mentally,
I think,
you know, challenged in that way. But
was it Tom that says it? His brother. You're the first person that doesn't need him, and that's why he was attracted to her so much. She didn't need him. She wasn't interested in his wealth, and he seemed to be attracted. Everyone else around him was trying to use him for their own benefits, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, overall thoughts, I really enjoyed the movie, Stephen. It was a real surprise to me. As I says at the start of the review, I wasn't expecting much from it, but then I should really learn by now that Blumhouse, when they are connected with horror, what they can do with a very small budget is just ridiculous.
But Blumhouse can be very...
They can be shit as well at times, yeah, absolutely.
But you're absolutely right, and I share your sentiments. I wasn't expecting too much going into the film. You know, I thought this was a tried and tested formula, but they put a spin on it. They gave us a little twist as well. You know, it was everything you expect from a psychological horror film. You know, it didn't disappoint. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Much better than The Mummy, that Tom Cruise abomination.
Yeah.
Oh, that was terrible. So they're off to a better start now, a second start in this dark universe.
Yeah.
Just don't give us any more Jekyll and Hyde and Mummy crap. No,
Dracula.
Please don't. Take a Dracula movie if they can do it right. Going to be hard to beat. Was it Christopher Lee who did Dracula, or was it Peter Cushing?
And Gary Oldman as well. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to top those ones, but I'm sure they'll give it a go. I'm sure they will. But look, guys, unless Steven's got anything more to add, that's going to round up our thoughts on The Invisible Man. What the hell did you make about it? Could you see The Invisible Man in any scenes? Maybe you can tell me below if you have, because I tried. I couldn't see him.
If you could see him.
Yeah, but slight outlines. Technically wasn't invisible. He had a suit that was manipulating things. What was your thoughts on the movie as well? If you've got anything to say, did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Say anything at all about it. You can comment below if you want to say anything. We'll not bite. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And if you do, then you will see us again Monday for MBE Movie News.